Graham, do you have any feedback on this comment?
I do, but I'm sorry. I'm just Olivia's struggling to get in and she hasn't got the link and I'm just emailing it to her. So can you just let me do that and I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Everyone, I have a comment. This is Ines. I'm sorry, I'm not going to enable my camera because I'm not feeling super today. But you can hear my voice. So patient partnership, Ilaria, is actually it's a concept that was defined in the Rare 2030 recommendations. And everything kind of stems from there and derives from there. And that was a project where clinicians participated and also CRM project managers and everyone. So industry, there were lots of stakeholders in there. So patient partnership really makes reference to when, the situation when patients partner, not just within the ERNs, but also with researchers, with companies, with, other stakeholders. So it is really a term that has already been defined. So I would not, I understand the angle and the nuance, but I wouldn't recommend to reintroduce new concepts when there has been a good, that was a one-year project and it's in there. So I would rather build from what is existing already.
Thanks, Ines. I just wanted to, before we go on, also let you know that we have two guests here today. Mirte is here. Mirte is in our team, in our framework development team, and she is a clinician researcher within EAN Ithaka. Hi Mirte, welcome. Thank you that you're here.
Hello, nice to meet you all.
And as well, now I don't see her anymore, Matilda will also help us with the framework development, and she is an intern. Thank you for joining, Matilda.
Hi, nice to meet you all as well. Thank you for having me.
Welcome. Okay, so if you all agree, Charissa.
I just wanted to further comment on what Ilaria said. What the clinician actually meant to say was there are so many different stakeholders. It's not only patients who are stakeholders. So you have, like Ines pointed out, you have researchers, you have clinicians, you have patients. So you have a partnerships across a whole board of stakeholders. So if you say patient partnerships, you're actually more implying that the patient is below all these people. And what's the clinicians and Ilaria and myself agree with it, what he said is we are all stakeholders, we are all partners in this. So maybe we should think of a term that implies that we are all partners. So not only patient partnerships, but something that implies that researchers are part, because you have researchers who are not only clinicians, but you have researchers who are laboratories, you have you have all kinds of researchers. So it's very important that you don't want to just say, well, you have this stakeholder or that stakeholder. You just want to be neutral and say we're all partners, and we want to imply that very strongly, and that's the angle that we wanted to take.
Okay, Graham.
Yeah, good morning. No, I'm a little bit confused about the idea that suggesting that it's looking at a patient partnership somehow suggests that the patients are somehow below everybody else. The word partner suggests you're not. And I thought that the intention of this was to reinforce the point that partnership was an inherent, i.e. equal partnership was an inherent part of the way in which we want to work moving forward. Just on a technical point though, we do need to recognize the importance of kind of stressing the partnership thing for patients, because everybody else we've just been describing, or almost everybody else we've just been describing, clinicians and researchers, are associated with an HCP who are full members of the network. And of course, patient representatives are not legally full members of a network. Yeah, certainly if we're talking the ERNs, although we have made great steps forward in, for instance, things like patient representation on the board and so on. So we do need to be careful about what point it is we're making. But I personally don't have a big issue with the use of the word patient partnership framework. I think we are just reinforcing the fact that we are an equal partner. And yes, I agree that everybody else, that researchers are as important as clinicians in this process. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Sorry, I don't want to be kind of controversial or whatever, but that's just my interpretation of the English almost, is that a partner's a partner. So I don't know where the idea that we are some way below everybody else comes from the use of that word, unless I'm misunderstanding.
Thank you, Graham. Rita, could you look at the chat and flag in? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So maybe we'll go on and I'll give you some background on the framework idea, and then we've prepared some interactive discussions with you and some polls. Okay, let me just pull up the slides. Okay, so what do we want to do? We want to develop a practical framework, a partnership framework for the ERNs with that will serve two main purposes. So we want to define a common understanding of patient partnerships across all the ERNs, and we want to guide everyone interested and relevant in planning for, conducting and evaluating patient engagement or patient partnerships in the ERNs. Why do we want to do that? We want to, after the first 5 years now, we want to consolidate and formalize all the experiences that we have made with the EPACs and with patient engagement in the ERNs. And we want to all together, so together with the ERN clinicians, the project managers and the patient community, agree and define a strategic goal, engagement or partnership principles and approaches and domains and enablers for patient engagement. So we want to agree and define that together. We at Eurodes, we structure our work on patient engagement in the ERNs around 4 areas of activities, 4 main areas. Building the governance model, that's something we've done since 2016, since the beginning. Planning patient engagement and conducting patient engagement and empowerment, for example, with the trainings that we did. But we never formalized these activity areas or shared them externally. Patient representatives and clinicians involved in the ERNs have been increasingly collaborating, but they don't have a common framework to guide this collaboration, this patient partnerships. Who would be using, for who would this be relevant, this framework? Of course, for the EPACs, for the patient organizations, patient representatives that are involved in the ERNs, or the ERN project managers, the clinicians, the coordinators, the lead clinicians and other clinicians involved in the ERNs, maybe also researchers, so everybody interested really. And for Eurodes staff, of course, as well. Okay, let me just have the images here in front of the slide. Okay, so how do we want to, with whom do we want to develop the framework? I mentioned it already, the idea is not for us in our corner at Eurodes to develop this, but we want to develop that with the EPAC leads, patient representatives, with the clinicians involved in the ERNs and the project managers. And we want to involve them at different points in time and with different approaches. And so we've developed a core team, or we launched a core team, let's say, made up of Eurodes. So I'm in there, EPAC leads and ERN project managers, and Ines and Rita as well. But until now, official members are so Simone Louise from Gotthard, who unfortunately couldn't join today, Graham Slater, who is here, Mirte is here, and Olivia Spivak. So you can see that we have Eurodes, EPAG leads, and then we have Mirte is a clinician and a researcher in Ithaca. Olivia is a project manager. You can see that there's, until now, we haven't integrated an EIN coordinator or lead clinician. But we have created an advisory group, which is made up of EIN coordinators. And so far we have the commitment from Holm Gressler, who's the coordinator of EIN R&D, Wout Feitz, Eurogen coordinator. And today I have a call with Marta Mosca, who is the coordinator from Reconnect. And they are committed to sort of accompanying us while we are developing the framework, to give feedback throughout the different development stages, and also to share the emerging framework with the wider group of the 25-24 coordinators. Might be reaching out to more coordinators, and I'll discuss today with Marta if she's willing and has enough time to join the core team. The core team is really the team that works sort of equally and is equally involved in the development of the framework. So this represents a huge or a big amount of time investment and work. That's why it's obviously difficult to engage the coordinators here. But I'll speak with Marta today to see if she is willing and has the time to be more involved than the others. Then we have you, the patient partnership working group. And yeah, you are made up of EPAC leads and EIN project managers. So like the meeting today, we would like to use you to give us feedback on the development of the framework. And we want to do the same with the EPAC steering committee. So with the EPAC leads, we'll want to, from now until November, use the meetings to regularly get really feedback on the emerging framework. And then we have at Eurodes an internal revision group. So an internal group of people who will closely accompany us and give feedback while we're developing the framework. You have any questions? Let me know, or write them in the chat as well. How do we want to develop the framework? So Graham, yes.
Yeah, no, sorry, I just wanted to add in terms of the overall objectives. Although we've got to focus here on the ERNs, developing this would be a good practice model for any patient organization to pick up in any collaborative working that it was doing in other networks, be they global, national, or whatever. I think that should be, that should be recognized as this being a good blueprint for that kind of activity, not just with the ERNs.
Thanks, Graham. Okay, so how do we want to develop the framework? These are sort of the key steps. We want to develop the framework from now until the beginning of November. So beginning of November, mid-November, we want to publish and disseminate. That doesn't mean that afterwards we cannot further improve and revise the framework. But yeah, so that November is our deadline. And we've started to look at relevant literature to identify existing frameworks and clarify concepts and different definitions. So we looked at frameworks for patient partnership, for patient engagement in healthcare, as opposed to research, so on. And did a summary of literature. When I say we, I mean Eurodes. Ines did a lot of the heavy lifting, but also, of course, the core group, the core team. Now we want to draft an annotated outline of the framework based on the literature. So using the results of what we've seen in the literature and identify gaps of information that need to be further explored. We want to share then this outline for feedback. Then we will refine the outline with the feedback. We want to develop a survey possibly interviews, and consensus building or focus group workshops to cover the identified gaps and to validate what we have thought to be relevant from the literature review. Then we want to analyze the information from the survey and the interviews and draft a first version of the framework. We will then share it again. We'll analyze the information from the survey and the workshops, share the results of the analysis for information. Then we'll draft a first version. Again, we'll share it for feedback and validation. Then we draft another version 2, and then we want to publish and disseminate the framework. And we're working on a more detailed timeline for this. We have identified one example of a framework which we like and which we think we can sort of use as a model and as a guide for us, which is outlined on this slide. It's Ontario's patient engagement framework developed in Canada, which sets out a strategic goal, which is in this case a strong culture of patient, caregiver, and public engagement to support high quality healthcare. And then these guiding principles, they define, for example, partnership, learning, empowerment, transparency, responsiveness, and respect. And they define these 3 key domains across which patient engagement is sort of happening: personal care and health decisions, program and service design, then policy, strategy, and governance. And across a spectrum of different engagement approaches. One of them is to share, so sharing, providing easy to understand health information, consulting, get feedback on a health issue, for example, policy or decision, to deliberate, so discuss an issue and explore solutions together, and collaborate, partner to address an issue and apply different solutions. And then they define enablers. So all of this is enabled by a culture of continuous quality improvement, access to information, easy to understand information, commitment to health equity and cultural competence, and rigorous research and evaluation. And I think we'll stop sharing this. So this is broadly, roughly the idea. And now I just want to pause for a minute to see if you have any comments or questions.
And just to flag to you that there's a question in the chat from Ilaria. She's asking, which keywords did you use for the literature review?
So we haven't done a full-blown rigorous literature review. We've looked at, we've done a Google search, basically. We use patient engagement frameworks, healthcare, as opposed to research in healthcare, patient engagement. So I don't have the list right now, but we'll
I
share
did it, so Lenya, it's, so it's not a scoping literature review as such, because we didn't do any systematic searching, but the terms that I used were all the time patient engagement, healthcare. So I focused on healthcare and I discarded anything around therapeutic development, research, etc. And then what I did was that, you know, and this I need to discuss it with Mirtha. This is what is going to be one of my calls with her. What I did was looking at the references from the, you know, the most current papers to extend the number of articles. But basically, patient engagement, healthcare.
I'm asking because, as I written to you, Ines, I'm doing the same exercise and many definitions. So I just want to have a suggestion.
Yeah, I can share with you the list of references that we have if you want to. Ilaria.
Super.
But in any case, we're going to do a summary of that. So, well, we can share both, but I'll share with you the references so that you can have a look at that already.
Okay.
Like it's Mendeley. Do you use Mendeley?
No.
Well, then open an account in Mendeley and you'll have a look at that there. It is very easy. It is very easy because, or otherwise I can send you the list.
I will open and send you the link.
Once you open your Mendeley account, let me know and I'll add you to that reference list.
Okay, thank you so much, Ines. So for this reason, I believe that the beginning should be, let's say, a disclaimer, a very good definition of what we mean with patient engagement in our framework.
Yeah.
Definitions would be the first, one of the first parts of the framework, not just patient engagement, but also, patient representatives, etc. So yes, there's some definitions in there that we will include, but we will also reuse definitions that we already have that are relevant for the ERNs and that are already out there and that we're not going to. So we have lots of definitions already in the governance framework that we will use because they are relevant. But I agree completely.
And the definition of patient partnerships, as you said, Ines, from the RARE 2030.
And that definition from the, that's our starting point.
We haven't included.
It's the only, so that you understand, Ilaria, from a European context and ERN context, what we have that is more kind of, close to what we do is just a couple of articles. There hasn't been much. There's a lot of literature from Canada and a lot of literature from other countries, not necessarily from Europe. So, we will use what's out there for sure. But then we might need to see if we want to adapt it a little bit to our context.
Right, thank you. So we haven't included a reflection today on the definitions, but we've prepared some polls for you, and would like to ask Rita, could you launch the Could you let us know, Rita, what's the first question? I think we have three.
Sorry, yes. So, yes. So the first question is about the guiding principles. And we have actually divided this question into two. So this first part, we have developed a rating scale. So we have listed some guiding principles. And we would, what we are asking is that you rate them. You can either scan this QR code that you can see on your screen, or you can use the link that I shared just now in the chat. Not sure if all of you have been able to see that one. Otherwise, you can also go to www.menti.com and use the code that you see here. But maybe the easiest option, if you don't have a mobile phone, is to click on the link that I just shared with you in the chat. It's not working at the moment. Has anyone else tried the link? Is the link not working for anyone?
I've tried it and it's just coming up with instructions.
Okay. And what if then give me a second. If I do this, can you already see the question?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so the question in full is, how well do you think these patient partnership guiding principles align with your personal values and beliefs about patient engagement in the ERNs? And you can see that we have some principles listed here. So we identified these principles through our literature review. And the ones that we have here on this slide are development of competencies in collaboration between patients and healthcare professionals and researchers. Let's include them there too. Learning in action, partnership, responsiveness, respect, empowerment, co-building, and transparency. And we would like you to rate them according to your own beliefs and opinions, how well they align with patient engagement in their ends, from not at all to perfectly well. I don't see, no, answers are coming in, okay.
Can you, sorry, do you think you could do like an example of, for example, what do you mean by co-building? So to make it on the other way around.
So, yeah, so co-building, I mean, co-building, as I understood it from the article where we've taken this from, is co-creation. So working in partnership, basically, together with clinicians, for example. So what could be an example?
So no, maybe it's then more the question that it's not clear to me. So what do we think?
So these are the guiding principles, that the key guiding principles that we identified from the different literature, the articles, published articles we looked at. And what we want to know is, how relevant do you think are these guiding principles for us for the ERN context? How important are they? Do they resonate with you? How important do you think they are?
Okay, so it's important
for your work
okay.
in the ERNs?
Okay.
In terms,
I'm not sure if Diana saw the Ontario framework because she arrived late, and that's why maybe she's not really understanding the question. I'm not sure if you want to show that slide again before Diana.
No
It's
problem.
fine?
No,
Okay.
I was a bit confused by the word aligning. You know, it could be anything. Could be aligning to my values, what it is now, or what it should be. You know, now it's clear. It's
Okay.
how we see it. It's not how it is.
yeah, how you see it.
Good. Thank you. Okay, I'm not sure. Has everyone answered? I can see 7 answers, so I'm assuming not everyone.
So co-building is.
So, for example, empowerment, we mean mutual empowerment, I guess, right? Rather than because.
Yeah, mutual empower. Yeah, you mean empowering the patient representatives to partner, but also the clinicians.
Yeah, because we hear about empowerment a lot, but
I mean, we need to think about these different guiding principles and exactly what we mean. For now, we just wanted to see how they resonate with you, which ones you think are feel very important to you, which one are less important when you think about the ERN context and partnering with clinicians or project managers with EPAC advocates or patient representatives. And Ilaria is saying, funny that transparency did not reach the top.
Yeah, but 4.5
said Smiley.
It's good. It's a good result. 4.5. It's a good result.
Responsiveness didn't score.
What does responsiveness refer to, Linya?
I think it refers to really inclusion. So responsiveness, meaning if you get, for example, if you get feedback on something that you respond to it's. I think it has to do with communication, but I'm sorry, it's true that I don't have the exact definitions of what is meant here, but I think it's about it's about responding, it's about communication, it's about giving feedback, it's
Let me hold on a minute. Let me put here some of the definition. Hold on a minute. because I think it's relevant, because otherwise it's difficult to.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I meant, you know.
Learning in
sometimes it's
action
difficult.
refers to, I think if I remember correctly, it refers to that it's a process, that, you know, engagement, partnering is something that you sort of learn by doing, in the openness that is needed, and the maybe while Ines is looking, Rita, we can launch the next question.
No, may I suggest to keep on having a brief discussion on this,
Mhm,
and then start again with this poll.
mhm.
So, because for me, I misunderstood what responsiveness was. So
Mhm.
reading what Ines put in the chat, okay, I would quite change my answer. And
Okay, okay.
and also, if I just spend a few words with transparency, I think that it should be at the top with respect, because these are the basis for a real collaboration and co-creation. Without these two things, it doesn't exist a partnership.
Yeah. But we wanted to get the opinions from everyone, and the
Sure,
sort of
sure.
no, I know, no, that was not a criticism. It was just to say that it's also, I think it's also important to have the spontaneous, you know, feedback or thoughts on how these terms resonate with everyone, you see?
Yes, I
But
understand.
the in-depth discussion is definitely, yeah, important, and then we can redo it. But it's also good to have this initial feedback.
And I spoiled my vote, of course.
Okay, well, we have a recording anyway, but Rita, let's launch the next one.
Diana has the hand raised.
Diana.
I actually had the same comment as Ilaria. So without the definitions, now that I see the definition, I would definitely change my vote. So I don't know, maybe it's better to
How
have
have
the
you
definition.
understood responsiveness?
No, I have actually, in my mind, responsiveness is not someone being able to reply to the voice of patients and take and demonstrate the positive impact, but rather to have a mutual responsiveness. So not only, I don't know, clinicians in the year end being responsive, but also IPACs being responsive. So I would change a lot. It's also transparency in what?
Mhm.
Transparency in actions, transparency in funding. It could be in the year ends, transparency in collaboration with industry. You know, it could be anything. So
yeah, but I think this is very good, because we want to define our own guiding principles. So we don't want to so much get you know, hung up on what's in the article, but we so I think this discussion is really good, because this is what we need to clarify and define for ourselves.
But you will not.
What transparency means for us.
You will not keep the priorities according to the poll.
That's okay. I mean, that's okay if we don't keep, I think the discussion is equally important, and we can do the poll again.
Yeah, I was going to say that I can reset the results.
Yeah.
If you all agree, I can relaunch that poll again.
Super.
Okay, then I'm going to do that. Just a second.
But in any case, this is just the first iteration, let's say.
Yes.
I understand that what you're saying, Diana and Ilaria, it's not easy to respond to a poll when you don't know what's behind. This is more what kind of a way that Lenya has come up with to get you discussing around what is important in terms of transparency. For instance, for me, in terms of transparency, and I am an outsider, it's would be that everyone gets the information at the same time whenever there is a meeting, or whenever there is a decision to be made in the board, etc., so that patients and clinicians get access to the same type of information at the same time. That's for me transparency, or you know, a dimension of transparency in the ERMs.
Yeah, or that everyone is included in email exchanges can be
Yes,
a lot of things.
just
For
to
me,
add
it's broader. It's broader transparency is to have access to all the documents, at least for the members of the steering groups, is deciding in advance how to allocate the budget in an activity, I mean, generally speaking, and knowing the reason why an activity is done. Transparency has so many, it's 36, 360 degrees.
Yes. So these are the new results.
We only have 2 answers so far. So
Okay.
sorry,
Oh, wait.
I'm sorry to be a bit strange today, but I don't have the instruments to do this poll again. I just have one definition. So I don't know, either you send us all the definitions and we do the poll again. Otherwise we do it another time. I don't know, as you wish.
Let's just go on for let's just go on for now, Rita.
okay.
Let's do the
so-
next one.
Okay. So the next one is still related to the principles, but it's an open question because we listed these principles, but there can be more that you find relevant. So we would also like you to share your thoughts. Let me share my screen first so that you can do that. So again, this one is about principles. It's a word cloud. So you can scan the QR code, use the link that I'm going to.
So I think the idea here was
Chat.
to think very freely about guiding principles for patient partnerships in the ERNs and what you think would be the most or the 2 most important guiding principles for patient partnerships in the ERNs from your experience being involved in the ERNs.
I'm not getting anything, Rita. Oh, it's come up now. Okay, thanks.
And the question is, what other patient partnership guiding principles do you think apply or are relevant for patient engagement in the RMs? Like Lenya was saying.
What do you think what is most important to you when you think about patient engagement, patient partnerships in the ERNs? What should be guiding that partnership for everyone, for the coordinators, for the ERN clinicians, for the EPAC advocates, for other patient representatives? Awareness of roles, trust, understanding, mutual trust, working side by side, training, sharing goals, common goals, acknowledgement of roles.
Yeah. What
Awareness.
about roles and goals?
Does anybody want to expand a little bit on what they've put here?
Yeah, I can. I think we have already discussed in the previous years these principles. sharing good practices, hearing bad practices. And there are many guiding principles that can be also picked where things are not working, because they are really clear. I mean, there are ERNs that don't acknowledge the role of the EPEGs. There are ERNs where the coordinator doesn't engage or integrate the EPEGs in the activities, or they don't share the goals with all the members of the ERN. So there are many, and I don't think these are the only ones. But I remember when we made the meetings with the agency, that trust came up as the basic for a mutual relation, and we see the word with at the center with bigger
Yes.
characters. But all the others, I think that we could spend 24 hours discussing each point and developing chapters for each of these words, expressions, because they are all good.
Yeah. They are all very relevant. Training, there are some that I would, that would fall maybe more under the enablers, under the part of, what enables patient partnerships.
But
Training would fall under empowerment, maybe. Yeah, sorry, Hilary.
No, just a question. What is the aim of these surveys?
The aim of the framework, or
No, of the polls.
It's just to get your initial feedback. So we've looked at we looked at the literature. We had a first sort of overview of what's out there in terms of frameworks in healthcare, patient engagement frameworks in healthcare, and we summarized the key outcomes. So what the key guiding principles, the key enablers, what motivates patient representatives to get involved. And we wanted to just sort of have a first initial brainstorming with you to see if that resonates with you, the guiding principles, and which more, which less, and what other guiding principles you would think are important. And we'll of course incorporate that feedback going further when we develop the framework. We'll have different rounds of iterations. We'll have a focus group discussion. We have a survey to sort of validate what we found in the literature and to identify gaps and adapt it to the ERN context. And this is the very first feedback we are getting from our initial look at the literature.
Thank you, Lenia. Sorry.
Stefano, you have your hand up.
Yes, I wrote working side by side. I don't know if it is clear, but I mean that when there is a project or anything, it would be nice to start from the beginning, working together, with clinician and with the other sides, and not to be involved after it has been decided or at a certain point, So this would be very important for me to decide from the beginning what to start and how to start.
Yeah, that's an important point, I think, and something we've heard over the years a lot, that involvement happened late or when things were already decided. Yeah. Can I ask one or two of the project managers we have on the call what your thoughts are?
Yes, if I may, I'm sorry, I'm jumping within the other volunteer. I have to confess that I share a little bit the concern of Diana and Ilaria, because I have not really clear the final objective of these exercises. I mean, in a very concrete way, like, is it we want to find a trans cross ERN model that fits with EPAC's expectation and successful cases already had in some ERNs? Or is it a way for building this working group, the partnership, the patient partnership working group we are working on? I am like missing a little bit of the background. Maybe it's my completely fault and responsibility of this.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. So my need is really first to understand the practical framework behind fixing maybe the objective, and then I can maybe share my experience. For instance, one of the things I'm thinking about that is that we're talking about patient engagement without any differentiation. In my experience, in my ERN, I collaborate both with EPACs and with 100 of patients association, and this is really different way of approaching to patients representatives. So I think we need a little bit to work on the nuances of this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mariangela. So the idea is to develop a framework, we call it practical patient partnership framework for all the ERNs. And we don't want to co-develop this together with the clinicians, very closely with the coordinators, the 24, but also with you, with the project managers. So everyone really who's heavily involved in partnering together, and with the EPAC advocates, with patient representatives in the ERNs. So we want to co-develop this for the 24 ERNs. And for this, we've put together different teams, one core team made up of EPAC, of patient representatives, project managers. We have Mirte as a clinician. We are seeing if we can get Marta maybe in there as an ERN coordinator, so that it really represents all the three big stakeholder groups that we want to have in there. Then we are engaging with the group of the 24/5 coordinators via an advisory group, which is made up of, at the moment, 3 ERN coordinators. We might make this group bigger. And we're using this working group, the patient partnership working group, which is made up of you project managers and patient representatives, and the EPAC steering committee, which is made up of 2 patient representatives per EPAC, per ERN, to sort of guide us as we are developing together this framework, because you're the ones who are doing patient engagement in the ERNs. You're partnering together. So this is why we want to involve this working group from now until November, really to get to really use you, let's say, to help us develop this framework, to give you feedback on at different stages of development. And this is the very first time we are getting any feedback on the initial results that we had looking at the different literature in terms of frameworks for patient engagement in healthcare. So we've summarized what we found in the published literature, what others are using when they develop frameworks, what guiding principles did they have, what enablers did they identify, what was their strategic goal for the framework. And so that's what we've sort of summarized, and now we've wanted to get the feedback from this group. So we showed you earlier these different guiding principles, which we've identified in the literature. And our idea was to get your initial sort of feedback. How do they resonate with you? Do you think they are, when you think about your partnership with patient representatives, what do you think are important guiding principles for this partnership this engagement to happen. So it's really just a very first feedback on what you think are important guiding principles and enablers. What do you think needs to happen? What are the good conditions for so that patient partnership can happen, can flourish in the ERNs? That's really the idea. It's the very first feedback we are getting, and we'll work on this framework intensively over the next months, and we'll get your feedback again and again and again. But this is, yeah, the first feedback. That's the idea. So it's just an initial brainstorming. Ines.
Yeah, can you stop sharing, please, Lena or Rita? So Mariangela, and I think that there was another comment from, who's it? Jana. So I'm not sure if this is clear for everyone. So I think that maybe we have jumped into something that are kind of the elements of the framework too quickly, without really explaining what we're trying to do here. So this is not about harmonizing how you do patient engagement in your networks. Each network has different structures. You engage patient representatives in different ways, and this is not about that. This is about getting all the experience from from this 5 years that we've been working with you, and also getting your experience, getting the experience from the clinicians and the patient leads, in order to put everything together into a framework that is a high-level framework. And it's high level in the sense that it's not going to kind of, it's not going to highlight or to define the governance rules, for instance. It's high level in the sense that, and even if this sounds very simplistic and obvious, it's not. It's high level in the sense that it's going to outline, for instance, guiding principles. So that might sound very simplistic, but it's not. I mean, we've never sit down together with the clinicians and the patient representatives and you to say, okay, whenever we do any activity around patient engagement in the ERNs, we need to be thinking about transparency. We need to be thinking about how this is really, following a partnership approach. We need to think about learning. We need to think about, so it's more like something that will allow us to have a common framework where we will all have as a reference when we develop the different activities that we do with patient representatives. That's on the one hand. It's also high level in the sense that it will allow you to also include in there, or kind of relate to it when you are working with patient representatives just to consult them, or when you're working with patient representatives more to kind of make decisions, or when you're working with patient representatives just to share information, because all that is engagement. So from our discussions at Eurordis internally, in the end, patient engagement can have, can look very differently, and everything is patient engagement. So sending information to patients just for information is a way of engagement, is a kind of a very light one. Having patient representatives in the boards is a huge level of engagement. Co-building care pathways with patient representatives is another form of engagement. So there are different types of engagement that will fall into the framework, in the sense that we will try to kind of put in there everything, so that we have something that when we go outside as an ERN system and we talk about patient engagement, all of us, we're all talking about the same things. And the other thing that is important about this framework is what Lenya was talking about, the enablers. So enabling to have a good patient engagement framework, or to have good patient engagement in the ERNs, we need training. We need a good set of evaluation indicators, because they're not there. And we need sort of all of other elements that are not defined yet, in order to make that sustainable, and that people don't just stay for 1 year, 2 years, and they leave. So we have to understand also what are the motivations, etc., from patients, from clinicians. So all that is going to be, we're going to build it from in this month with everyone. And this first meeting, I was not involved in the preparation, but my understanding is that Lenya just wanted to get some views from you on how, you think, what are the principles that are really relevant for you when you work in the ERN, so with patients. It could be cultural awareness, it could be everything that you've put in there. But today we're not trying to get your feedback on the patient engagement framework or the patient partnership framework, because it's not existent. We haven't started yet to develop. So this is just a first step in a long road, let's say, and that's why you are just being asked to. I think this is also Lenia's. I was not part of the preparation, but I think that she just wanted to get your views on very basic principles, just to see if there's anything that was missing, or there was something that we needed to pick up, specifically relevant for the ERNs, let's say. Sorry to be a little bit, sorry, but I think that it's important to get a little bit of understanding from everyone that this is what this is about, not how we're going to do it, because how we're going to do it is something different. What this is about, I want everyone to make sure that it's, that everyone understands. So if this is not clear, maybe Graham or some other can chip in, but or some others that have been involved. But I want to make sure that everyone understands what we're trying to do here.
I'd love to chip in this, but I'm afraid I've got to leave to go to another meeting now. So I've just suggested to Lenia I'll catch up with her shortly.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, everybody.
I would just ask you to forget the word engagement and only use the word partnership, because engagement means that someone takes action and the other one responds. Partnership is on the same level, and I would prefer to use partnership.
Yeah, a good comment. Ines, did you raise your hand again, or is this still up from before? Okay, I guess from before. I don't know, Olivia, Mirte, do you want to add anything? Because you're also in the core team. Do you think you want to have anything clarifying to add, or should we go on with the enablers poll still? Or
I think just from my side, just to echo what Ines said, in that it is and it should be recognised that all the ERNs are different and are at different stages, as Jana said, in the engagement process with patients, and operate differently. But I think this is more about the guiding principles, which is irrelevant to how far how the model is set up per ERN, but more about the principles that frame the work. So just to echo really what Ines clarified.
thanks, Olivia. And Dorica, sorry, you have your hand raised.
No problem. I agree with Ilaria. She just said, I also would like to say that I agree with all the principles and many more. And I think that they could all be principles, but also enablers, depending on how we describe the action. So, but I agree that we should leave engagement out if we talk about partnership. And but it could be one of the principles, engagement. So, or enablers also. So that was my comment only.
Good point. Thank you, Dorica. Okay, should we go on to the last poll?
Okay, so you want to go straight to the neighbors, is that it, Lenia? Because we also had one on the domains. But maybe
yeah,
that's more
I'm a bit
abstract.
afraid now that this may be too. So we had prepared 3 different polls. So one was on your thoughts of what are important guiding principles in terms of patient partnerships in the ERNs, and then another one, asking you to what you think are important work domains of the ERNs where this partnership is happening. So work areas where and clinicians, researchers, and patients are working together. So where's patient partnership happening in the EINs? Everywhere? Are there key domains? And the last one was on what do you think are enablers for patient partnership? For example, training for patient representatives to be involved, technical training on clinical topics, training for clinicians, efficient, good communication. But I don't know if we should go ahead with these pods given the confusion. Ilaria.
I would go ahead
and
use the results as the basis for our next meeting.
Okay.
We can have the results, think about it. Maybe we can misunderstand, but so we are naive now, as for the previous two polls. And then we can have the discussion based on the results.
Very good. I agree with that thing. Good. Okay, so let's just try.
Okay, same drill as before. Either use the link that I shared with you in the chat or go to www.menti.com and type the code number or scan the QR code. Okay, I'm going to move to the next slide so that you can see the question. This one is an open question. And you don't need to type only one word, like in the word cloud. And the question is, what are the key patient engagement domains? So the main areas that should be included in an ERN patient partnership framework to ensure meaningful patient partnerships.
So, for example, the work on clinical practice guidelines that the EINs are doing, research, anything that where you are working together, where you are engaged in any key work areas that you can think of that need to be considered, that should be considered. I think Vita is working on showing the answers.
Yes, I'm not sure why they are not appearing on the screen. Maybe I.
Okay, budget, guidelines, training, communication, clinical practice guidelines, including EPAC in EIN governance, research steering committee, training and education, communication, training, sustainable organization, anybody wants to comment?
Yeah, just because I don't know why they didn't went through. I put these 3 main domains.
You've put what? Sorry, Ilaria, I didn't.
What I written in the chat is what I put in Menti. So budget creation of all activities, decision-making tools.
Okay, great, thank you.
I can't see anything in the chat. Can you see a message from Ilaria? Because I can't. I'm not sure.
I wrote it, but not signed it.
Ah, okay.
It's there.
Okay, thank you.
I am an efficient EPAG.
Initiation of new projects. Great. Okay. If there are no other comments, maybe we can go to the last one, to the enablers, or does anybody want to comment?
Stefan has his hand raised.
Yes. I like sustainable organization, but I would like maybe the person who wrote it to explain me better what it or she means with sustainable organization.
Yes, that's me, Stefano, Lex.
Yes.
The sustainable is normally we are dealing with chronic diseases, so a disease which is there through all your life. But our organizations are mainly volunteers, volunteers when they have some time, and when quite some people are also patient. They have limited energy, limited resources, and so on. So how do you make a solution which lasts for a long time, not leaning solely on volunteers?
Yeah, yes, it was what I imagined, so I agree with you.
Okay,
it's an important domain.
I think it's very good to check whether that's the same thing you have in mind I'm putting on the screen. So thank you for the question.
Right, thank you. Should we go to the enablers? Okay, so the last poll is what really about what you think are the conditions that need to be in place for patient partnership to happen, to flourish. What do you need as EPAG advocates, as patient representative? Now, I don't want to use the word engage, to partner with the ERN clinicians, with the researchers. What are we can think of basic conditions, but also what empowers you, what enhances the partnership. And from the project manager side as well, what do you think are important enablers for partnering together in the ERNs? Right, EPAGs, trust and transparency with training is coming up a lot throughout the whole discussion.
Again, yeah, and what the comment that Darika made about some aspects can be seen as enablers or guiding principles is also coming up here.
Yeah, because we have trust and transparency, people with the required knowledge and experience, open communication, shared knowledge and trust, involvement in working groups. Ilaria?
Still me, Ilenia, sorry for overspeaking. I wrote trained EPAGs because this is the basis for communication, for involvement in working groups. for every activity it is in the ERN. I think that we really need, in a sense, there are different levels. Of course, yes, we realize that there are different levels, and you are helping, as you are helping with induction calls. We are doing the same, but training is something that enables the EPAGs and the other stakeholders to speak the same language.
And Ilaria, what training? Can you give some examples of what you think would be most
You are
important?
this summer and winter school. Why not leadership? And many online trainings, because you don't really need to, if you want a certificate to put in your CV, yes, you have to attend the official lessons. But I spent 2 hours this morning just for my training, for something that I need to better understand. So you can train also yourself attending online meetings, webinars, but you have to keep on training.
Yes, thank you.
We have people, EPAG, that don't know what a clinical practice guideline is, or people that apply to become EPAGs without knowing what the ERNs are. And that's a reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we also have getting to know each other better, providing workshops, all stakeholders, inclusion, involvement, open communication, trust. I don't know, Jana, can I ask you? Sorry to put you on the spot, but do you have any thoughts on this from the project managers, from your experience as a project manager, what you think are important enablers or conditions to be met for you to partner with patient representatives?
I think Jana has
She's
problems
pointing.
with her microphone.
Sorry, trouble with my micro. Oh, okay, you can also use the chat if you want. You want to hear your opinion. And there's something else, clear procedures and definitions of roles. Okay, that comes up again, communication and information sharing, trust, networking opportunities, mutual respect.
Elenia, in the meantime, I can comment from a project manager's perspective.
Sure.
My item on here was clarity and transparency on processes. I think if new projects and processes are clear from the outset, and that goes hand in hand, I think, with co-building the process together. But if everyone's clear what the plan is for the project from the beginning and open and transparent, then I think that's really crucial in facilitating the effective patient engagement from my perspective.
Thanks, Olivia. Yeah, makes sense. Dorica, do you have any? Did you put anything? Do you have any thoughts?
Yes, I put open communication, shared knowledge and trust. And I think but I agree with the training that is needed, and it's a very important enablers. But without open communication, we have to learn how to communicate between us and with the healthcare providers in an open way. And we also need to share knowledge as partners, because of course the experts have their knowledge about diseases, and because they learned, but we have the practice of everyday life. And we need to trust each other in all our actions. That is my view on this topic. That without any of this, the partnership is not working. So.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Dorica. Okay, I think we can stop sharing.
Yes, just to add that Jana wrote her comment in the chat, and she's saying, what I observe in our ERN is that we really need to build a foundation of trust. And for trust, there is transparency needed, I think. So that goes hand in hand.
Yes, very, very important point indeed. Thank you, Jana. Yeah. Okay. We are almost at the end of the meeting. I think I apologize again for the confusion and maybe not giving enough background information for this exercise. But I think it was good to, as Ilaria put it, get also your naive input without being too informed about what's in the literature and thinking about the ERNs. So we'll take that back, your feedback here, and use it and take it into consideration for the next steps. And we'll get back to you. We'll get your feedback again when the framework is a bit more mature, and then we'll share also information with you before our next session, that you can come prepared and you know better what's happening during the meeting. Do you have any last comments? Maybe Mirte, I don't know. Olivia, did I miss anything that we wanted to discuss?
No, I don't think you missed anything. I think the points of confusion and the discussion that we had today is actually very helpful in the long term, because it highlights areas where perhaps there needs to be extra clarity, extra definition, terminology, and various other points that can be taken forward. So I think these sorts of discussions are very good for the long term.
Yes, I completely agree. I think both seeing how this meeting goes and what is needed to have a good meeting, as well as the content discussions, are valuable for us moving forwards. And we will make good use of that next time, I think.
I am really confident that the outcomes will be relevant, but to make them be even more relevant, we need to not just to send an email with the paper or whatsoever, but to present to all the coordinators and the project managers. So to have a wide presentation during maybe some Brussels meeting, I don't know, but it's important to let the messenger reach those that really, really need to build this kind of partnership.
Yeah, that's a very important point, Ilaria. We'll make sure that we can present it. Definitely, our idea was to present it at one of the next project managers meetings. I don't know when the next one is happening, but we are in contact with Michelle about this, and then we've shortly spoken with Holm, who will be the next coordinator of the coordinators, to see with him if we can present it also during one of the coordinators meetings, but that will be already early summer, so we would be already quite far. That's why we have this in terms of the development of the framework. That's why we have created this advisory group for the coordinators to ensure it reaches them. But yeah, very important points, yeah. Okay, then thank you very much for joining and for your feedback, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.